The shuttle from Earth floated down through the golden clouds of Laura Prime. Its smooth silver body reflected the light of two suns that hung over the crystal plains. Inside, the human delegation sat in silence, watching the alien world unfold below. Towers of glass and metal rose like frozen waves, and rivers of light flowed between them. Everything looked peaceful, precise, and impossibly beautiful. Among the guards standing near the passengers was Reen, a young man from Earth's outer colonies. His job was simple: protect the diplomats, follow orders, and avoid drawing attention. He had trained for months for this assignment, but nothing had prepared him for what he saw outside the window. The capital city of the Lorian Empire looked alive, every building pulsing faintly as if it had a heartbeat. When the shuttle landed on a long silver platform, the door opened to a burst of cool air filled with a faint scent like rain on stone. Dozens of Lorian attendants stood waiting. Their tall, graceful bodies shimmered with translucent skin that caught the light like glass. Their eyes glowed softly, each a different color depending on their inner energy. Reen followed the diplomats as they walked down the ramp. His boots clanged softly against the metal floor. The air felt light and thin. Around the landing platform, banners of blue and white fluttered in an unseen breeze. At the far end, on a raised platform, stood the ruler's daughter, Princess Nira. Nira was young by Lorian standards, perhaps only a century old, though she appeared about Reen's age. Her silver hair flowed down her shoulders, and a faint light glimmered beneath the crystal embedded in her wrist. It was the soul mark, a rare Lorian trait said to glow only once in a lifetime when touched by one's destined bond. Nira watched as the humans approached. Her expression remained calm and regal, but inside her thoughts were curious. Humans fascinated her people. They were not made of crystal or energy like the Lorians, yet they had reached the stars through courage and invention. The Empire had studied them for years, but today was the first time humans were welcomed into the palace itself. The human ambassador, an older woman named Daria, stepped forward and bowed politely. Nira inclined her head in return, a gesture of equal respect. Behind Daria stood Reen and two other guards, their uniforms dark and simple against the shining colors of the Lorian court. The ceremony began with a quiet melody that drifted through the air, produced by living instruments that grew from the floor like vines. The ambassador offered a gift from Earth, a crystal orb filled with light patterns representing the human solar system. It hovered gently above her hands. Nira reached out to accept it. As tradition required, the exchange had to be made by hand to symbolize trust between worlds. Her fingers brushed against the orb, and then, for a fraction of a second, her skin touched Reen's glove as he steadied the gift. The moment felt like lightning without pain. A spark leapt from Nira's wrist. The crystal embedded in her skin burst into color, flooding the entire hall with soft white light. The musicians stopped. The air itself seemed to freeze. Reen blinked, unsure of what he had done. He stepped back quickly, hand still half raised in confusion. Around him, the Lorian attendants whispered in disbelief. The glow from Nira's soul mark continued to pulse, bright and steady. The High Advisor stepped forward, eyes wide. "Your Highness," he said carefully, "the soul mark. It has awakened." Nira stared at her wrist, speechless. The glow spread in waves that reflected in the crystal walls. She felt her heart racing, something no Lorian had felt in centuries. The soul mark was said to activate only once when a Lorian met their soulmate, the one whose energy matched theirs perfectly. But this was impossible. The human before her was from another world, another species entirely. Reen saw the shock in her eyes and felt a sinking weight in his chest. He had only followed orders. He had not meant to break any sacred rule. I'm sorry, Your Highness," he said quietly. His voice echoed slightly in the silent hall. "I did not mean to offend." Nira tried to speak, but words failed her. The light on her wrist dimmed slightly, but it did not fade away. The crystal seemed alive, reacting to something deep within her and to the quiet energy that radiated from the human guard. The ambassador quickly stepped forward to calm the situation. "Please forgive any misunderstanding," she said in a respectful tone. "Our guard was only assisting with the gift." The High Advisor's voice remained formal, though his tone carried unease. "No harm was done. The soul mark is beyond our control. It chooses what it chooses." Nira looked once more at Reen. His face was calm but uncertain, his eyes steady even under the weight of hundreds of Lorian gazes. Something in that steadiness unsettled her. She turned to the court and raised her hand, signaling the end of the ceremony. "The reception is concluded," she said softly. "Our guests will be escorted to their chambers." Reen bowed his head and followed the diplomats out of the hall. As he walked away, he could still feel a faint warmth on his hand where he had touched her. That evening, Nira stood alone on her balcony overlooking the glowing city. The twin suns dipped low, casting long streaks of color across the crystal spires. The soul mark on her wrist continued to pulse, faint but steady. She had tried meditating to calm her mind, but the light would not stop. Her thoughts swirled with questions. Could fate truly link her to a human? The Lorians believed the soul mark connected two souls through pure energy resonance. If that was true, then this connection crossed not only culture and distance, but species itself. Her attendant, Mira, entered quietly. "Your Highness," she said softly, "the council has requested an explanation. They are troubled by the sign." Nira turned, her voice calm though her heart was restless. "Tell them I will address it tomorrow. For now I need silence." Mira bowed and left. The balcony grew quiet again, the only sound the distant hum of the city. Nira lifted her wrist and watched the crystal flicker like a heartbeat. She felt drawn toward the human she had met. Something about his presence had awakened a warmth she did not understand. Meanwhile, Reen sat in his assigned quarters in a smaller wing of the palace. The room was clean and bright, walls glowing softly with energy light. He looked down at his glove, remembering that brief contact. He had never believed in legends or fate. He was a guard, a worker, someone who followed duty. Yet something about that touch had felt real, as if a piece of him had been seen for the first time. He sighed and lay back on the smooth surface that served as a bed. He wondered what would happen tomorrow. The other guards had whispered about the strange event all evening. Some said he would be sent home immediately. Others believed the Lorians would study him, but Reen was not afraid. He had seen the princess's eyes in that moment. Not anger, not fear, but confusion mixed with a hint of wonder. He did not know what the soul mark truly meant, but he felt that their meeting was not a mistake. Somewhere deep inside, beneath the logic and duty, something told him that this was only the beginning. Outside, the twin suns vanished below the horizon, and the city of glass shimmered in the starlight. The soul mark continued to glow faintly through the night, one heartbeat at a time, linking two lives that had only just met, but would soon change the fate of both their worlds. Morning light spread across the city of Laura Prime, painting the crystal towers in gold and silver. The sky shimmered with thin clouds that moved slowly like silk. Inside the royal palace, the atmosphere was calm on the surface, but beneath that calm ran a deep current of tension. The strange event of the previous day had reached every corner of the empire. Courtiers whispered in the long hallways. Scholars argued over old records. Some said the soul mark could never make a mistake. Others said the contact between Princess Nira and the human guard was only a rare reaction, caused by energy difference. But no one dared to speak loudly about it. In her private chamber, Princess Nira sat near a round window. The sunlight reflected through the clear crystal walls and danced on her silver robe. The soul mark on her wrist still pulsed faintly, steady as a heartbeat. She had tried to ignore it all night, but the glow refused to fade. Her attendant, Mira, entered quietly with a tray of clear blue fruit and steaming herbal water. "Your Highness, the council will meet in 2 hours. They are still discussing yesterday's incident." Nira nodded slowly. "I understand. Have they spoken to the humans yet?" "Not yet," Mira replied. "They are waiting for your decision." Nira looked out the window again. From here she could see the humans' living quarters on the far side of the courtyard. The walls shimmered like mirrors, hiding those inside from view. She wondered what the human guard was thinking. His face had been calm, not proud or fearful. It had left an impression she could not forget. Mira noticed her silence. "Your Highness," she said carefully, "if I may speak freely, perhaps it would be wise to let the council handle this. They can arrange for the humans' return home. That would end the confusion." Nira turned her gaze to the glowing mark on her wrist. "It would end the confusion," she said softly. "But not the question." Mira bowed her head, unsure what to say, and left the room quietly. In another part of the palace, Reen stood near a tall archway with the other guards. His duty for the day was light. The humans were scheduled to attend a cultural exchange session. The Lorian environment still felt strange to him. The air hummed faintly with energy, and the walls seemed to breathe light. As he waited, one of the human officers whispered, "You are famous now, Reen. Half the palace knows your name." Reen gave a small, tired smile. "I would rather they did not." The officer laughed under his breath. "Be careful. They might make you part of their history." Reen stayed quiet after that. He was not afraid, but he was thoughtful. The moment he had touched the princess played again in his mind. It had felt like standing at the center of a storm that was made of light and sound instead of wind. He could not explain it. He had not felt pain or fear, only a strange warmth that reached deep inside him. Soon a messenger arrived. "Guard Reen," the Lorien messenger said in calm tones. "The princess requests your presence in the southern garden." Reen was surprised but followed the order. Two palace attendants guided him through long crystal corridors. They passed fountains that shimmered like liquid glass and trees that glowed with pale blue leaves. The beauty of the place was so strong that it almost made him forget his nervousness. They reached a large garden surrounded by high transparent walls. The air smelled of clean rain. Princess Nira stood near a small pool that reflected the twin suns. Her robe shimmered faintly in the light. Reen bowed politely. "Your Highness." She looked at him with calm eyes, though her heart beat faster than she wished. "I wanted to speak with you alone. Yesterday something happened that no one can explain." Reen nodded carefully. "Yes, Your Highness. I did not mean to cause it." "I know," Nira said softly. "The soul mark is not a thing that can be forced. It responds to what lies within the soul, not the surface." She lifted her wrist, showing the faint light still glowing beneath her skin. "Our scholars say the soul mark reacts when it finds perfect energy harmony. But how can such harmony exist between a Lorien and a human?" Reen hesitated, thinking before he spoke. Maybe it does not see difference the way we do. Maybe it only feels what is true. Nira looked at him with quiet surprise. "You speak like one who has seen many worlds." "I have only seen hardship and hope," he said simply. "Sometimes they teach the same lessons." They stood in silence for a moment. The wind stirred the garden leaves and the pool rippled gently. The sunlight touched the water and cast moving reflections on their faces. Nira finally spoke again. "Do you feel anything strange now?" Reen looked down at his hand. "Only that the world feels a little more alive than before." Her lips curved slightly, not quite a smile, but something close. "Your words are unusual for a guard." "I was a mechanic before I joined the security corps," Reen said with a hint of humor. "Maybe I just see the universe like a machine that sometimes surprises you." Nira found herself studying him more closely. Humans were smaller and less radiant than Loriens, but there was something solid and warm about them, something unmeasured by energy sensors. She realized that she could feel his presence even without looking at him. When he left, she watched him go with a quiet ache she did not understand. Later that day, the royal council gathered in a high chamber of shining crystal. 12 elders sat around a circular table that floated slightly above the floor. Nira stood at the center, calm but firm. The eldest counselor spoke first. "Your Highness, the matter of the human guard must be resolved. The Soulmark's reaction has caused unrest. The people are beginning to talk." Another elder added, "The mark must be mistaken. Our ancient records show no case of interspecies resonance." "It is impossible." Nira listened to them in silence. When they finished, she raised her hand. "What if it is not a mistake? What if our understanding is incomplete?" The elders exchanged uneasy glances. One of them said carefully, "Princess, to suggest such a thing would shake the foundation of our teachings." "Perhaps our foundations need to be tested," Nira replied gently. "If truth can be shaken, then it is not truth." Her calm words silenced the room. The elders could not openly oppose her, but their faces showed concern. The eldest finally said, "Very well, Your Highness. We will observe before judgment. But until we understand this bond, the human guard must remain under watch." Nira agreed. It was better than exile or punishment, though she disliked the restriction. That evening, Reen sat in his quarters again, but his thoughts were not at rest. A faint light glowed from his wristband where a small Lorien scanner had been attached for monitoring. The palace scientist had asked to study his energy field. He had agreed without protest, though he did not enjoy being treated like a puzzle. He looked out the window toward the main tower where the princess lived. The tower's peak shimmered under the soft night sky. For reasons he could not explain, he felt a quiet pull toward it. At the same time, far above in her chamber, Nira stood by the same window looking down at the courtyard. She did not know why, but she too felt that same faint connection. It was as if their thoughts brushed against each other in the quiet of the night. For the first time in her life, she felt the limits of logic. The Lorian way had always taught that emotion was only a reflection of energy. Yet what she felt now was not something her people's science could measure. It was real, deep, and warm. She touched the glowing mark on her wrist and whispered softly, "Why you?" In his room below, Reen looked at the stars and thought, "Why me?" Neither knew that their words reached the same invisible point between them, where two different worlds had begun to share one silent heartbeat. The soul mark glowed once again, brighter than before, as if answering a question neither of them had dared to ask aloud. Night had fallen on Laura Prime, but the city never truly grew dark. The crystal towers glowed softly from within, like lanterns scattered across a sea of glass. From her balcony high above the capital, Princess Nira looked down at the shining streets. Everything seemed peaceful, yet she could feel something was wrong. For 3 days, the energy flow across the capital had become unstable. The glowing rivers of power that fed the city's systems flickered faintly at night. The engineers called it a minor flux, but Nira sensed something deeper. The Lorian Empire had not faced such imbalance in centuries. She turned toward the glowing data screen floating near her desk. Reports scrolled across it, showing readings from the power core beneath the city. Energy loss, temperature drops, and faint tremors repeated across the data. The Empire's heart was weakening. A quiet tone sounded at her door. "Enter," she said. The door slid open and Mira stepped in with a nervous look. "Your Highness, the Council requests your presence in the main chamber. There has been another power surge in the lower district." Nira stood quickly. "Prepare the guards." "I will go there myself," Mira hesitated. "The lower district is not safe. The energy conduits may fail without warning." "All the more reason I should go," Nira said firmly. "If something threatens our people, I must see it with my own eyes." Within minutes, she left the palace with a small team of attendants and guards. To her surprise, one of the assigned escorts was the human guard, Reen. He bowed as she approached. "Your Highness, my orders are to ensure your safety during the inspection." Nira nodded. "Then stay close. We may need quick thinking more than formality tonight." Reen followed as the group descended into the lower levels of the city. The walls here were less polished, built from old crystal mixed with metal. The air felt colder and the light was dimmer. Faint vibrations passed through the floor like a heartbeat growing weaker. As they reached the energy control center, the Lorian engineers bowed deeply. "Your Highness," one said, "the core is stable for now, but the fluctuations are spreading. Our readings do not match any known pattern." "Show me," Nira said. They led her to a large chamber filled with glowing machines. Thin energy streams ran through clear pipes, pulsing in time with the city's rhythm. But several of those pulses were out of sync, flickering weakly. Nira studied the data on the panels. "The imbalance begins in the deep tunnels. Have we sent a survey team?" "We tried," the engineer said, "but communication was lost near the old fusion gates. Something interferes with the signal." Reen stepped forward. "If you wish, Your Highness, I can go down there. I am trained for field repairs." The Lorian guards looked uncertain. Nira met his eyes. "You would go alone." "I can take one of your engineers," he said. "If the tunnels are unstable, smaller teams will move faster." She hesitated. Her duty told her to refuse, but something in her heart trusted him. "Very well," she said after a moment. "Take an engineer and report back immediately." Reen bowed and moved quickly. A young Lorian technician named Laro joined him. Together they entered the elevator that descended deep below the city. The tunnel system stretched for miles beneath the capital. It was cold and silent, the walls covered with faintly glowing veins of crystal. The deeper they went, the stronger the vibration became. Reen checked his wrist scanner. Energy flow dropping fast. "It looks like something is drawing power away." Laro looked uneasy. "That is impossible. The conduits are sealed. Nothing can take energy without clearance." They followed the main conduit until they reached a wide chamber. In the center stood an ancient machine half buried in the floor, its surface covered in dust and faint light. It pulsed weakly like a dying star. "This must be one of the original power converters," Laro whispered. "It has not been touched in centuries." Reen walked around it carefully, scanning the surface. He found a crack in the outer shell. Energy leaked from it in thin strands of blue light. It looks like the system is trying to repair itself but cannot. Something is blocking the process. He opened his toolkit and began working. Lara watched as the human adjusted connectors with quick, precise movements. "You understand our systems very well," the Lorian said with surprise. Reen smiled faintly. "Energy is energy, no matter the world. It only needs balance." After several minutes, the hum of the machine steadied. The flickering light turned smooth. The vibration under their feet eased. Lara looked amazed. "You did it. The system is stabilizing." "Only for now," Reen said. "We should report this. The main core may be affected by the same fault." They returned to the surface, unaware that far beneath them, something else had awakened. A faint glow spread through the lower tunnels, forming strange patterns like roots under the city. Back in the palace, Nira waited in the observation hall. When Reen and Lara returned, she rose from her seat. "Report," Reen bowed. "The converter was damaged, but we repaired it. Energy flow is steady for the moment. However, I believe the fault is spreading from something deeper, something we did not reach." Lara nodded in agreement. "The human's skill was impressive, Your Highness. He saw patterns our sensors missed." Nira's eyes softened slightly. "You have done well, both of you. Rest for now. We will investigate further tomorrow." As Reen left the hall, Nira's gaze lingered on him. She could still feel the faint warmth from her wrist, the soul mark pulsing gently in rhythm with her heartbeat. She knew the council would never approve of her trust in him, but each moment she spent near him made her more certain that their connection was not an error. That night, she called up all the data Reen had recorded. His notes were simple, written in direct language, yet his insight was remarkable. He had noticed something the Lorian scientists had overlooked, a repeating pattern in the energy fluctuations, almost like a signal. Nira frowned. Could it be communication, she whispered to herself. Her thoughts were interrupted by Mira entering again, her face pale. "Your Highness, the southern sector has gone dark. The power there has failed completely." Nira stood quickly. "Alert the engineers. We are going back down." Within minutes, she and Reen were once again heading to the lower levels. The tunnels were darker this time, lit only by faint blue light. The silence was heavy. As they reached the damaged area, Nira saw strange patterns glowing on the walls. These were not here before. Reen touched one of the markings carefully. It feels like the crystal itself is alive, trying to say something. They followed the markings deeper until they reached a sealed door covered with ancient symbols. Nira's eyes widened. "This is from the first builders. Our oldest records speak of them, but no one has opened these doors in thousands of years." Reen examined the seal. If the energy is flowing from here, maybe something inside has reactivated. The air around them hummed. The markings began to glow brighter, pulsing in time with Nira's soul mark. Reen felt a strange pull again, like the air was alive. Nira stepped forward. "It responds to the mark." The glow spread from her wrist to the door, and slowly, the ancient seal unlocked with a deep tone that echoed through the tunnel. Inside, they found a vast chamber filled with old machines and a huge crystal core that pulsed faintly. Its color was unlike any Lorian energy, warm gold mixed with human-like warmth. Reen looked in awe. "What is this?" Nira's voice was soft but filled with wonder. "This is the heart of Laura, the first energy source of our world. It should not be awake." The crystal pulsed once more, brighter than before, as if answering her. The ground trembled slightly, but not in threat, in recognition. Reen turned to her. "It reacts to you," she nodded slowly. "No, it reacts to both of us." As they stood together before the ancient core, their combined presence stabilized the glow. The trembling stopped. The faint hum grew steady again. When they returned to the surface hours later, the city lights had stopped flickering. The engineers cheered in relief. The crisis was over, at least for now. Nira looked up at the stars and then at the human standing quietly beside her. For the first time, she felt the truth forming in her heart. This connection between them was not only personal. It was something greater, something written into the history of both their worlds. She whispered softly, "Perhaps fate does not belong to one species alone." Reen looked at her, unsure if he had heard her words or simply felt their meaning. Above them, the night sky shimmered as the twin moons rose together, casting silver light over the glass city that now breathed again. The next morning, the golden light of the twin suns washed across the shining city. The streets were calm again, and the crystal towers glowed with steady energy. People smiled in relief, thinking the strange power problem had passed. But deep inside the palace, Princess Nira knew the truth. The crisis was not over. The old machine they had found underground, the heart of Laura, was awake again. It had stabilized the city for now, but no one understood how or why. Nira remembered the glow it gave when she and Reen stood together before it. That light had felt alive, almost warm like sunlight. She sat in the council chamber surrounded by the elders. Their long robes shimmered faintly as they spoke in careful, measured tones. "The power has returned to normal," said the eldest counselor. "But this human involvement is troubling. We have never allowed outsiders into our core systems." Another elder added, "The soulmate connection between the princess and the human continues to grow stronger. This is not natural." Nira looked at them calmly. What happened below the city was not an accident. The heart responded to both of us. If it had not, the empire might have fallen. Her words caused a wave of silence. The counselors exchanged uneasy looks. The eldest finally said, "Perhaps, but we cannot base our faith on a chance meeting between species. The mark is dangerous. It may be binding your energy to the human in ways we cannot control." Nira straightened her back. "If that is so, then I will learn to control it. I will not deny what saved our world." Before anyone could respond, the door opened. Mira hurried in, her face pale. "Your Highness, there is new trouble. The main core has begun to emit unstable waves again. The engineers say the disturbance matches your energy pattern and that of the human." The room filled with low voices. The eldest counselor frowned. "Bring the human guard here at once." Moments later, Reen entered the chamber. He bowed respectfully. "You sent for me, Your Highness." Nira gave a small nod. "Yes, the heart of Laura is calling again. It may be reacting to us both. We need to return there." The elders immediately objected. "This is reckless. If the mark draws more power, the entire city could collapse." Reen looked at Nira. "If we do nothing, the same thing might happen anyway." "The system is unstable." The eldest elder turned toward him sharply. "Human, you speak out of turn." Reen met his gaze without anger. "I only speak the truth. I do not want harm for your people or mine. But sometimes waiting is the greater risk." Nira rose from her seat. "Enough, I will go. The heart called us once, it will answer again." The elders could not forbid their princess, so they agreed under protest. Soon Nira and Reen descended once more into the crystal tunnels. The path glowed faintly, leading them back to the great chamber where the heart of Laura rested. The air felt different now. The energy was stronger, pulsing like a heartbeat that matched the rhythm of their steps. When they reached the chamber, the heart shone brightly. Streams of golden light stretched across the ceiling like veins of fire. Nira raised her wrist and the soul mark glowed in answer. Reen stepped closer, watching the patterns of light. "It feels alive. Like it knows us." Nira nodded slowly. "The legends say the first builders created the heart using the energy of two beings joined in purpose. Perhaps that is why it responds to us." Suddenly the ground trembled. The golden light flickered and cracks began to form in the crystal walls. Reen reached out to steady Nira as dust fell around them. "The heart is overloading," he said quickly. "It is drawing too much power." Nira touched the surface of the great crystal. "It reacts to emotion. The first builders believed that unity between minds could guide it." Reen looked at her. "Then we have to be united. Tell me what to do." She met his eyes, calm even as the chamber shook. "Do not think. Just trust me." They both placed their hands on the surface of the heart. The glow grew brighter, wrapping them in light. Nira felt her energy flow outward, and at the same time, she sensed Reen's human warmth reaching back toward her. Their energies began to blend, soft silver and bright gold swirling together. Images flashed through her mind, stars being born, oceans rising, and strange worlds blooming with life. She could feel Reen's memories too. His small home on Earth, the laughter of his people, their hope, their courage. The crystal began to stabilize. The tremors faded. A soft humming filled the chamber, deep and peaceful. When the light dimmed, Nira opened her eyes. The cracks in the walls had closed, and the heart shone with a calm golden glow. Reen stepped back, breathing hard. "Is it over?" Nira looked at the crystal. "It is balanced. For now, yes." They stood in silence, both aware that something inside them had changed. The mark on Nira's wrist now glowed steadily, brighter than ever before. Reen noticed it and asked quietly, "Does it hurt?" "No," she said. It feels like breathing. When they returned to the surface, the palace buzzed with relief. Reports showed that all energy systems were now perfectly stable. The elders were waiting in the main hall when Nira arrived. You succeeded, said the eldest counselor, though his tone carried unease. But the cost of this connection is unknown. Nira raised her wrist. The cost is life itself. Without this bond, our world might have died. The elder replied. Perhaps, but the people may not accept this union. They will fear what they do not understand. Nira looked at him calmly. Then they must learn to understand. Later that night, Nira walked through the garden where she had first spoken to Reen. The air was cool, and the moonlight made the leaves shine like glass. Reen was there too, standing near the small pond looking at the reflections on the water. You should rest, she said as she approached. He turned and smiled slightly. I could say the same to you. She stopped beside him. The elders are afraid of what happened. They think the heart will demand more from us. He looked at the water again. Do you believe that? She shook her head. No, the heart is not a monster. It only wants balance. I think it reflects what we are inside. When you stood beside me, it became calm. That means something. Reen was quiet for a moment. I do not understand how two people can change a whole world. Perhaps the universe listens when two hearts beat in the same rhythm, she said softly. The silence that followed was gentle, not heavy. The night air carried the faint hum of the city's restored energy. Nira turned to him again. Reen, when I was a child, I was told the soul mark was a promise of fate. I never believed it. I thought it was only an old story. But now I feel that it is real. Reen looked at her wrist, at the light that glowed there. And what does it promise now? She smiled faintly. That maybe our two worlds were never meant to be separate. For the first time, Reen allowed himself to smile fully. If that is true, then maybe this mark chose better than we think. A gentle breeze passed through the garden and the water rippled softly. The glow from Nira's wrist spread faintly to his hand as if the air between them carried invisible threads of light. Neither of them spoke for a while. They simply stood together under the moonlight, watching the reflection of the two moons merge into one shape on the pond's surface. Far above them, unseen by both, the heart of Laura pulsed slowly in rhythm with their joined energies. The light from it spread through the city's deep veins like a message written in gold. Across the empire, machines ran more smoothly, crops grew brighter, and even the stars over Laura Prime seemed to shine with new strength. The people called it the dawn of harmony, unaware that its true source was not the machines, but two beings from different worlds whose souls had touched. In the stillness of that night, Princess Nira finally understood the truth she had been afraid to name. Her bond with the human was not a mistake. It was destiny shaped by courage and trust, and as for Reen, he no longer felt like an outsider on a strange planet. He felt like he had found his place among the stars. The days that followed were filled with change. The Lorien capital had never felt so alive. The power that once flickered now flowed strong and clear. The sky above the city shimmered with light that seemed brighter than ever before. People called it a blessing from the heart of Laura. Yet deep inside the palace, whispers continued. Some said the balance had returned only because of the princess and the human. Others feared that the strange bond between them could bring danger. Princess Nira listened to every report with calm patience. She knew the hearts of her people were divided, but she also knew that fear was natural when faced with the unknown. She believed in time. Truth would shine brighter than fear. Reen, meanwhile, continued his duties quietly. He still wore the same dark uniform, though now every Lorien who passed him bowed their heads politely. Some did so out of respect, others out of curiosity. He accepted both with the same calm he had always carried. Sometimes, when his duties were done, he walked through the gardens alone. The plants there responded to his touch now, glowing faintly when his hand brushed the leaves. The Lorien scientist said it was the mark's energy spreading through him. He did not know if that was true, but he felt a quiet connection to this world he once thought foreign. One evening, Nira met with him again in the great garden. The Kyu twin moons were rising together, their light shining on the clear pond. The city is healing, Reen said as she joined him. I see more smiles every day. Nira looked at the glowing skyline. Yes, but peace must reach beyond the city. The other worlds of the Empire must learn what happened here. They must know that harmony came from unity, not from fear. Reen nodded. You will tell them yourself. I will, she said softly, but I want you beside me when I do. He looked surprised. Me? Yes, she replied. You are part of this. The mark chose us both. Our voices together will carry more truth than mine alone. Reen hesitated. Your council will not like that. Nira smiled faintly. They did not like the light either, yet they still live under it. Her words made him laugh quietly. Then I will stand beside you. The next day, the royal council gathered in the great hall. The room was filled with bright energy, reflected in every wall and crystal beam. The elders sat in a circle, their expressions calm but uncertain. Behind Nira stood Reen, quiet yet steady as always. Nira stepped forward. Elders of Laura Prime, she began, her voice clear and even. For many generations our people believed that only those of our kind could bond through the soul mark. But the light has shown us otherwise. The heart of Laura awoke not through fear or power, but through understanding between two worlds. The proof stands before you. The elders murmured softly among themselves. One spoke up. Princess, what you say is bold. The people may not accept a human as your bonded one. Nira met his eyes. They will learn. The soul mark does not lie. It is not bound by appearance or species. It feels only truth. Another elder said, Even if this is destiny, what future do you imagine for such a union? Nira looked at Reen. A future built on choice, not on tradition. A future where two worlds stand side by side, sharing strength and learning from each other. The hall grew quiet. The elders could see the calm determination in her eyes. Finally, the eldest counselor rose slowly. The mark is beyond our control, and the heart of Laura now thrives under your guidance. Perhaps it is time we trust the light rather than fear it. Nira bowed her head in gratitude. Thank you. The council dismissed, and word of their decision spread quickly across the city. For the first time, Lorians and humans walked together through the palace without hesitation. That night, a celebration took place in the central square of the capital. Thousands of glowing lanterns filled the air, floating upward like stars. Music echoed softly across the city, and people of both species gathered together in peace. Nira stood on a high balcony overlooking the crowd. Reen stood beside her. From this height they could see the sea of light stretching far into the distance. The Empire has not seen a night like this in centuries, she said quietly. Reen smiled. You brought them hope. She shook her head. We brought them hope. The people below began to chant her name softly, mixed with cheers for the humans who had come to Laura Prime. It was not just celebration. It was the first step toward something new. Nira turned to Reen. Do you remember when we first met? He nodded. You looked at me as if I had broken the universe. Her lips curved into a small smile. Perhaps you did, but you also fixed it. The laughter that followed was gentle, carried by the warm air. Later that night, when the celebration faded and the city quieted, Nira walked with Reen to the ancient chamber beneath the palace. The heart of Laura glowed softly, its golden light steady and warm. They stood before it in silence, the glow of the heart reflected in their eyes. It is peaceful now, Reen said. Yes, Nira replied, but listen. He listened carefully and heard a faint rhythm, a slow, calm pulse that seemed to match the beating of their hearts. It responds to us still, she said. Our bond continues to guide it. Reen looked at the great crystal. Do you think it will ever stop? She shook her head. No, it is not meant to stop. It is meant to grow. The first builders created it to last as long as harmony exists. That harmony now depends on both our worlds. For a while they stood there watching the soft light. Then Nira turned to him. Reen, when you first came here, you were a stranger from a far world. Now you are part of ours. You have shown me what courage looks like. Not the courage to fight, but the courage to understand. He met her gaze. And you showed me that peace is not weakness. It takes strength to hold light when everything feels dark. They stood in silence, feeling the energy of the heart surround them like a calm tide. Above them, the night sky changed. A new light appeared among the stars, brighter than all the rest. It shone with gold and silver mixed together, the same colors as the heart of Laura. The palace sensors recorded it at once. Scientists would later call it a rare cosmic alignment, but the people gave it another name, the Union Star. They said it appeared when two souls of different worlds became one. Nira looked up at it, her face glowing in the light. Do you see that? Reen nodded slowly. Yes. It feels like it is watching over us. Maybe it is, she said softly. Maybe it is the universe telling us that what began here will not end here. He smiled. Then we will make sure of it. In the following weeks, Nira began plans for a new alliance called the Council of Two Suns, where humans and Lorians could share science, art, and learning. Rian became the first human liaison to the Empire, a bridge between two civilizations. Everywhere they went, people watched them with wonder. Some still doubted, but most saw hope in their unity. Together, they traveled to the outer colonies, teaching both sides that difference did not mean distance. The soul mark on Nira's wrist glowed each time they brought peace to a troubled place. It became a symbol of trust between species. Rian often said, "The mark may be light, but it reminds us that warmth is what keeps that light alive." Nira always answered, "And warmth begins with the heart." Years later, stories of the princess and the human spread across the stars. Children on distant worlds grew up hearing how the heart of Laura had awakened because two souls from different worlds dared to trust each other. The Empire changed. The humans and Lorians built ships together, shared knowledge, and created new homes among the stars. And whenever anyone looked up at the night sky, they could still see the Union Star shining brightly, a reminder that understanding is the strongest power in the universe. As for Nira and Reen, they continued to walk side by side, not as ruler and guard, but as partners who had once touched hands and awakened something greater than either of them could imagine. They stood one evening on the same balcony where their journey had begun. The twin moons hung above the horizon, and the city below glowed like a sea of light. Nira looked at Reen and said softly, "The universe is vast, but sometimes it takes only one small meeting to change everything." Reen smiled. "And sometimes one small touch can light up a whole world." She nodded, her soul mark glowing faintly in the moonlight. "Then let that light never fade." He reached out his hand and she took it. The stars above them shone brighter for a moment, as if the universe itself was smiling at what they had become.